how long does it take on average from an agent to graduate onboarding to the time that they open up an escrow? Because that's how we can figure out, is onboarding working? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Are we staying tactical with it? Because we went from like 112, I think it was 112 to 114 days, down into the 70s. Now we have 3 of our last onboarding group. They've opened up escrows on day 59, day 62, and day 64. So it's like, it works so long as we're tracking, is what we are doing working? And the agents who obsess over this process are the agents who are beating everybody else by almost 100% in timeline to get a deal open, because it works. And we're tracking what we want to deliver the results, and we're making sure that we put pressure on it when it's not happening. And when we have agents that aren't getting the results, we put them on a 90-day PIP. And if they don't have an escrow open during that 90-day PIP, we're releasing them from the team.
Welcome to the Cheplak Live podcast, where I bring forward proven, tested leaders who take you behind the curtain of their business, share stories of the past and current space and time, so that you don't have to make the mistakes that we've all made along the way, and really help you with your business. And I am here with a gentleman that I'm privileged to know, been able to spend some time with him over the years, Colton Whitney, who's just crushing it. Colton, thanks for your time today, bud.
Thank you, brother. Happy to be here.
Well, let's jump in. First of all, let's start here. Just tell everyone right now about your organization. You know, what is the structure of it, and where are you guys at production wise? And then I'm going to have you, we talked about this previously, take people on the magical mystery ride you're on, which you're very humble about, but is much different than many others because you're having growth and success. But first of all, tell us about your organization.
Yeah, so we are a team of 48 now. Just a couple of years ago, we were 4. So we've scaled a little bit. We're feeling some, we've been feeling and have felt. And the good news is some growing pains. And it's the one time, I'll never forget the 1 week where I felt like we weren't having pains. And I went to my ops manager and I was like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, I was like, it's 5:30. I can go home with absolutely zero stress. I was like, what's going on? Are we not doing it? And it's so funny because the next week, everything started slamming back in on us and the world started feeling like it was collapsing again. I was like, oh, thank God. Because I just knew, like, we've just gotten accustomed to, if we're uncomfortable, it means we're growing. And if we're comfortable, I know it means we're not. So the last couple of years have been fun. We've made a whole lot of mistakes, continue to make mistakes, but of course we're trying to learn from them. This year, it's March 29th. We are currently, I only know our pending and close, and I should have known this because I know you always talk shit on that. We're at 80.
I call out the ones that are trying, the fudgers, right? You're not a fudger, so we're good.
Yeah, I think pending and close, I looked at it yesterday. I know we're at like 84.5 million. So we're on a good trajectory for more growth this year. We've grown by 100% for the last 4 years. This year it's going to be tough, but right now we're on pace for about 30 to 40% growth.
That's awesome. So take us back, take us through the trajectory. We're sitting in 2024, just wrapping up the close of the first quarter, and at the recording of this, and the journey though from 21, take us through 21, 22, 23. We probably can't get through all the things that you had to do and experience.
Yeah.
Share as much as you can, because again, it's like, I know your heart, man. You're a straight shooter, but yet the people that know you know your heart and you want to contribute. And I think this is a time when people just need that contribution with the truth, which you always bring, but hope.
Yeah. The 2021 was a good year. Like 2020, 2021 for everybody was a good year. The problems, and it's funny because as I was looking back, talking with my ops manager, the problems back then was we all had too much opportunity. We all had too many leads. We had not enough agents. We had every single house was selling in 2 to 3 days, and everybody's freaking out and panicking about it. And the challenge, like for us, and I just remember the biggest struggle was, and what's funny is we're starting to get back into that world now, of really having to audit what a really good offer avatar looks like for us. Like what's getting accepted, what's not. Because when we start scaling agents, our core agents who have been with us and have the skill set, they get their offers accepted because they know the avatar to use, they know how to submit it. But the ones that don't are the new agents. Like those agents struggle because getting a client to write an offer that's going to win in this market is challenging, because they're going to be like, what do you mean no appraisal contingency, no loan contingency? I'm getting an appraisal and a loan. And a new agent just doesn't have that skill set of articulating it to a client in a way that's going to make them feel comfortable. And it's like, back then, those were good problems. Like we got to a point where we were having to audit every offer that went out. We had a virtual assistant. So when offers went out, we had a system, and we would go look how many contingencies were being applied, what percentage over ask price was being offered. And we were monitoring what percent, like if we see an agent with a very low offer to acceptance ratio, it would immediately show up in the numbers. And it's like, well, you're writing offers at 101% of ask price. You're putting 3 contingencies when our winning offers are doing 1. You're submitting at 100% when our winning offers are at 104.5%. So it's like, if we want to know what's winning, we got to track and see what's winning.
Right.
Those were good problems, man. Like, like
Yeah,
that,
right.
that was the extent of our problems of, hey, we just need more people. We need to help people improve their skill set of how they articulate this stuff. But then in 2022, when interest rates skyrocketed, like that's when the market really started getting hard. And that's when we weren't getting more leads. We still grew by 100% that year when our market was down by 35. And it's not because we had more leads. It's not because we had more people. We just started getting crazy intentional about doing more with less. And we had to define, what is doing more with less? What does that actually mean? And it's funny because it's not for everybody. Like the type of tracking that we do is not for everybody. And you're the one that got this so ingrained in my brain. We have to obsess over process if we want to create predictable outcomes. And process means from the time that we get onto that phone to the time that we hang up to the things that we do, the tiny little micro adjustments that we make in process that delivers a disproportionate result when you don't skip the steps. We started obsessing over that, and we started requiring compliance on that. And a bunch of people don't like it. I've even had somebody tell me, hey, man, I've had a couple of your team members join me, and they said the reason is the box checking. I'm like, well, you, by all means, take the people that we've let go and have them not check boxes. But we're trying to deliver predictable outcomes. And unless we have people that'll follow a process, we're not going to get it. So we just got crazy intentional with that lead conversion process to where now, hey, guys, this isn't just eating and staying fed off the low-hanging fruit. This is, you've all forgotten how to climb. You've forgotten how to nurture all the fruit that tree has to bear. And unless we get you back that nurture skill set and teach you how to climb and take advantage of all the opportunities that are there, you're going to starve, because the low hanging fruit from 2022 and some of 2023, it was few and far in between. And the only people that were going to get it were the really skilled. So that's pretty much, we just got crazy on that. I don't know how much you want to go into it, but we just started focusing on the things that deliver better outcomes.
Yeah, really good. And so as you've gone through this process of growth, the one thing that we know is you can have process and you can have leads and you can have the tech stack, but then there's also the most important thing we know, the foundational piece is human resource and recruiting. Naturally, you had some attrition that took place in that. If you take a look at over 22 to 24, how has your attrition been? What's that look like for you?
Actually really strong. So we've been, and this was a hard, I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of people pretend that it's an easy thing to do. Getting rid of people's hard, because like we're getting rid of people that we genuinely like. We're getting rid of people that we really care for. And we've had to, and separating from those people, and we don't ever surprise them. Like I do believe firmly, nobody should be surprised. I don't think I should be surprised. I don't think you should be surprised. Whatever is coming down the pipe, we need to make sure that we're prepared for it. And and that goes for, if you're going to leave us, give me a phone call. Let's have a conversation. We've invested a ton of time in each other. Let's not burn that bridge. Because I'm somebody who genuinely, I know a lot of team leads get really upset. I do not get upset. There's other team leads that have taken some of our team, and now I can tell they think I don't like them. I'm like, buddy, I promise you, I don't have a problem with this in any way, shape, or form. But the conversation of like, if somebody's not hitting our standards, and this, again, a lot of you is going to surface in what I'm talking about here, is the standards are what we're not willing to walk past. And like, are we actually willing to hold a standard? And are we actually willing to release people for not upholding it? And that took time. And we weren't doing it nearly as consistently, but it has become something that is just black and white. If standards are not being hit, they have been put on a 90-day PIP. The 90-day PIP has evolved for us, the performance improvement plan, because it used to be like we would have to go after them, be like, hey, where's your numbers? We changed that completely. And it's we are not going to reach out to you one time for your submission of numbers. If you fail to hit that number, like this is self accountability, you have to submit. We'll tell them, hey, here's what you're going to do. Open your alarm, set a recurring alarm for 9 o'clock every single day, and you make sure that you submit those numbers. And the agents, we've watched this work because we track how long does it take on average from an agent to graduate onboarding to the time that they open up an escrow, because that's how we can figure out, is onboarding working? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Are we staying tactical with it? Because we went from like 112, I think it was 112 to 114 days, down into the 70s. Now we have 3 of our last onboarding group. They've opened up escrows on day 59, day 62, and day 64. So it's like, it works so long as we're tracking, is what we are doing working? And the agents who obsess over this process are the agents who are beating everybody else by almost 100% in timeline to get a deal open, because it works. And we're tracking what we want to deliver the results, and we're making sure that we put pressure on it when it's not happening. And when we have agents that aren't getting the results, we put them on a 90-day PIP. And if they don't have an escrow open during that 90-day PIP, we're releasing them from the team.
It's black and white. It's not maybe they'll find someone in 4 months or 5 months or 6 months.
No.
Exactly.
Nope.
And that's what we know that's out there though, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and that's and again, it's hard too, because you look at people and you're like, these people were just over at my house for dinner. And we've made it very, very clear that this is what's going to be expected. My problem now is I've completely gotten on board with this, and now it's getting leadership to be strict with it. So it's a never ending process. But I think it was at Maverick, I can't remember who it was. It's like, hey, do you have a Super Bowl winning team? What does a Super Bowl winning team look like? What are the characteristics and the personality traits and the discipline and the consistency of the players on a Super Bowl winning team? And then what about leadership? What about the coaches? Do they embody those same principles? And so put everybody on one side of the list, put everybody on the other side of the list. How many people are you getting rid of? That was something when I started writing that list at Maverick, I was like, we got more work to do.
Hey, I can tell you real quickly, we just did it 100 agent group that, wasn't happy where things were. We pulled 43 people in a room.
Wow.
43, and ended up 17 of them survived through it. That was it. But that was something that I bring that up because what I want y'all to hear is what Colton's talking about is listen, your heart's in it, and you got to have these standards. And if you didn't have the heart in it and it wasn't tough, there's no way you would grow. Like that empathy part of it. I mean, I think it's really just the empathy part of it. But I just share that story because if you don't do what he is doing, A, you're going to starve people. Why would you starve people? But B, you're going to end up with that big group of people. I mean, that's where they're just not doing anything. How have you, I'm curious on this because we haven't talked about it actually this directly in the times we had conversations. How have you recruited agents over the year? Is there a specific process you've used that you could say, John, it's this, or is it a mix of things? Talk about your recruiting process because you've got to have human beings.
Yep. So the human being aspect, we do a deep dive training, which is open to all of our local agents. There's a team here who we compete with who sends their team members here because I flat out told them, I was like, guys, you have my word. Anybody that comes, I know people are different on this stuff. People have call what it is, but it's like, hey, I'm never going to take any of your people, even if they try. Like, even if they try to come here, they're not going to be welcome. This is something that I genuinely want to do to be able to give back to you guys. And obviously that's not a selfless thing. We all know the brokerages that we're a part of and we're trying to help. And but I like these new models because it creates this thing where, hey, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll never have a problem getting what you want. We have all screamed and said that from the rooftops, but now people are genuinely being incentivized for just dropping value. So we utilize those deep dive trainings. We have a 12-week rotating circuit of a specific topic, and it goes from how you show a house, like from start to finish, lead conversion from start to finish, how you request for repair advisory, what you look at. Like, we're teaching agents how to do each thing that's necessary to be a good agent. That's been really impactful for us. Our events have been really impactful for us, and our agent referrals are by far our number one source. It's our team is definitely a big, our biggest recruiters.
There you go. And they always, what I found is they typically perform at a higher level versus people, as I've looked at larger organizations, the agents that are referred versus the ones that, you go out and actively try and recruit because
Yeah.
they want to perform for their friend, right? And their friend wants to make sure that they do well.
It's a totally different person who comes in through referral. And by the way, that's happened with leadership too. Like we've had Booney's been with us for 10 years. Brittany's been with us for 8 years. Like as we've gotten older, our people keep growing with us. And everybody's like, how do you get somebody like that? And it's like, I got Brittany at a NutriShop. She sold me way more than what I needed when I started my fitness journey. And then she ended up reaching out on Facebook, like, hey, you're in real estate. I'd love to come work for you. Started as an assistant. Holly was a referral from one of our agents. Booney was a referral from our office manager. It's like when you, so when people are like, how do you find them? It's like, dude, they fell in our lap. Like we really didn't do anything intentional at all. But we were just lucky to have them.
Well, here's what I want to point out from the outside looking in is I know Colton, but hearing what he's talking about, and I want people to really capture as I look at different organizations, and these are words people talk about, but then there's living by it, is he runs a principle-based organization. What's a principle? Law. For example, he just demonstrated that a competitor's agents come over and it's black and white. That is his principle. You send your agents over, I'm not going to be with them. And principle, law. 90 days time frame, whatever time frame as far as production is concerned, I love you, but we're going to have to go in a different direction. And I'll tell you, the people get so caught up in scale up or rocket fuel, and they think it's the science of the squares. That's a minimal part. It's your personal development, and he pointed that out earlier too, in that where he's had to, he didn't use the words, but he explained it to you. He's grown in personal development of that ability to stick in principle. So hear that, folks. It's the stuff that you look, it's so much think strategy and tactic, but it's that stuff. I just want to point that out. I'm doing the opposite of what I said to him, how I typically interview. I just want other people to talk, but I want to point things out that you're doing.
No, dude, I appreciate it. There's a
Yeah.
reason why I always have my pen when you talk.
That's cool. Let's talk about this. What were the first things? Go through what you started to let go of. You're doing sales, and then like Dan's first hire was an ISA.
Yeah.
What were the things that you started letting go of, so that you could be more of a business operator from sales
So
operator?
I'll give you the most recent one. And dude, it was scary. And I had somebody specifically tell me, it's like, hey, your hands are still on every department's steering wheel, and you got to pull your hands off. You're still driving the car. And if this thing crashes, whose fault is it? And that was a big eye opener for me, because I have somebody now, granted, it's because I'm terrified and I'm still trying to hold on. It's like, am I really letting go? And the answer was no. And it came down to like for our sales department and driving performance on a particular lead source,
Mhm.
I did take my hands off the steering wheel. And it went in a really dangerous direction with some of our performance review, like literally to a point where I was like, oh my God. And then I was blaming myself because I was like, you let off and now we could be disengaged from this thing. And sure enough, we kept hands off. I got a little bit more oversight on what was happening and the reporting that was coming back from it. But holy shit, like literally this month, we ended up smashing target by 220%. We've already hit target for next month. So we're going to smash target for next. And now I'm relieved, because this whole time I was like, I'm going to take my hands off the steering wheel. And I was like, son of a bitch, we just totaled the car. And then now I saw him swerve it back onto the road, get control. And now I'm like, he's got it. So it was like the most scary thing for me, because literally it's in this time when all these changes in the industry are happening. And then I was kicking myself in the ass. I'm like, you idiot, look what you did. Look what you did to the entire business. But the person who was driving the vehicle corrected it and is getting us where we need to be. And I'm super proud of him for it.
It's really good. Agent training, let's go back to that. Do you still participate in it, or do you have others do it, or what's the delivery look like from who's doing it?
Yeah, so I do from like a trainer level. So I'm a part of the huddle. I've never lost proximity to the team. I've even been told by a lot of my people that I really look up to, like, hey, you're too in the weeds. And then I saw a lot of those people get out of the weeds, and now I see them right back in it. So
And their numbers are different than yours, or the
so
trajectory.
yeah, like, and truthfully, it's my passion. I've never liked real estate itself. I'm genuinely loving it. Again, this is all going to surface from you, but what worked is like the accountability piece and how we're holding people accountable. And I'm on every single one of those calls. And people are like, bro, that's too much. I'm like, dude, it's every single day from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. That's it. 4 days a week for 30 minutes gets through all in a 2 week period, gets through all of our accountability calls. If I can't take 30 minutes to be a part of my team and to make sure they're getting to where they want to go and they're taking the actions that they said they were going to take, they shouldn't be with me. Like I don't, and I know people got different answers. Like, you got to go higher level. For me, I still like being that engaged with them. I still like knowing their lives that way, because the cadence that we took was yours. Hey, in the realm of all things that are possible, could you, had we been a little bit more accountable with our time, had we been a little bit more disciplined, could we have still flipped over your turtle in the habitat, which threw you off track for the entire week, and still made your calls? And it's like, could you have still done it? And the one piece that's been the most important, and I have people that do this for me, it's truly knowing, and the fucking what's your why stuff is cheesy as shit, but I have a why for the first time ever, and it's my dad. He has Alzheimer's, can't work anymore. I made a commitment to be able to keep him retired without my mom having to worry about work. They have nothing. And it's like, hey, that's why I'm going to show up on the days that I don't want to. And I have a coach who specifically will tell me, hey, you have a text message, and if you don't deliver these numbers, you're going to send a text message to your mom, this message that says, sorry, I wasn't willing to show up for you the way that I promised. You got to get up and go look for a job. That fucking text message is never going to get sent. I can promise you that. So then that cascaded into, why don't I know this for each of our people? Like the real whys, the real reasons, the real things that we're working towards. And we'll ask everybody, it's like, hey, why are you doing this? I love houses and I love real estate. It's cool. You wouldn't do it for fucking free. So what's the real reason that you're doing this? And it's like, we've got that. And some people have got their kids, some people have investments, some people want to buy a cool car. I don't care what it is, but we try to tie to a reason and a penalty and a consequence of who we're going to let know on the days that you're not showing up that you're supposed to. And dude, the team responds, the right people respond really well to that. Certain people take it as an attack, and it's like, hey, and a lot of stuff you're hearing is surfacing directly from your world. It's like accountability is the most sincere form of love. And I believe that firmly, because when my sister had issues, the type of accountability was only because we loved her. Like you hold people accountable that you care about the most. And certain people take accountability as an attack, and it's that they're not willing to take responsibility for their inaction. And for us, we don't want them here. They can go to other places that let them do whatever they want to do.
Well, I want you guys to hear and go further here, because Colt's referencing me. I tell people, you don't need a big why, you need a what. But here's the clarity. We do align in this big time. Is so many of y'all put this why that's so far away. And I'm not saying don't have big dreams, but here's the deal. And he pointed it out, is that his why is in front of him every single day. He is checking a box with his heart, but he is connected too, because if he slips today, his ability to deliver on that. So it is an ongoing thing. And that's the piece to connect to, is that thing that's right in front of you. The other thing I want you to notice too, is he has a coach here's a gentleman that has grown his business. Now others look to. I put him on my stage recently. I should say our stage. I hate saying my. We're similar in that, right? It's not my stage. It's our stage. I put him on stage because he delivers massive value, and he's moving to mastery. And mastery is when you can teach and train people how to do what your peers are doing. But what did you hear? He's got hot sauce accountability from a coach. Not just, oh, you did, but like right at it. So I want people to hear that big time. Right now, what would you say? Because I love where you're at. I think it's this thing. I had the same quote to me. I remember a big client who has 100,000 agents under him, one-on-one, a CEO. You're not running a business, you got a job. I said, well, I'm going to stay right in the crispiness of it. I'm staying in my core competency, and I always will. When I don't, I'm done. What would you say is your core competency? Is you might be looking at that and discovering, because I'll ask a lot of people, is what is your core competency? If you were to say to me, number one, and maybe in an order, what is the one thing that you think you have that moves the needle the most, that you'll always is a pretty definitive term, but you know what? I need to stay right there. What do you think that one is?
The one thing, because I personally need it, and it's where everybody's trying to improve their lead convert. It's mine is lead conversion. It's if this then that, if this then that, like focusing on, we're both into fitness, and a lot of what we do, and it's douchey to talk about, especially when you're somebody who does it, but it's like a lot of the things that we focus, like you're given. And I had an agent in here, and she told me, she's like, this is, I just feel like I'm being micromanaged. And by the way, we don't ever beat anybody up for not doing it. We don't tell them what they got a plan to do. It's like, hey, what are we doing today that's going to move the needle in your business? Like, we're obsessed over what's winning the day for you. And when they onboard, they have to write out what's going to be winning the day for you. I know you and I, a big part of that is we do our health and we do our fitness and diet compliance and all that stuff. And I asked this girl, I said, I got a question. She's big into fitness. I said, you have a trainer? She said, yeah. I said, what do your meetings with your trainer go like for you? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, tell me what the first meeting was like. Well, we talked about what I wanted to do with my body and where I wanted to grow and where I wanted to slim down. I said, God, and what do you do? He prescribed a diet. He just prescribed the macros that you were supposed to eat. He made you send tracking photos to make sure that you're going in the right direction. Because the good news is when we're tracking what we're doing, we get to gauge whether or not it's working or not. And tracking for a lot of people, we know, and you see this because you've had such a profound, and a quick shout out to you for what you've done. You have had such an impact on people's businesses in such an extraordinary way, but the impact that you're having on people's personal lives and their fitness and their health, I would imagine for you is so much more fulfilling than the financial aspect.
I tell them I'm a fraud. I've been tricking y'all for years. This business thing, I do, man. I think I posted it. You may have missed it a week ago. I've been tricking y'all. Man, this business thing's a front. I want you to drink less if you need to, or not at all. I want you to eat less if you need to. Dude, you're bang on. But what a great parallel, because what you're doing, I want you to see what he's doing from a leadership principle. And a lot of, it's interesting. You can go read something and say, do this. There's a principle. But then there's you do it and you identify it. What he's doing is he's facilitating, and facilitation, he's allowing self-discovery. He's getting someone to take a look and say the spillover effect.
Yeah.
Taking a parallel. Hey, oh, wait a minute. And he allowed that young lady to recognize, oh, I've got that in me, whereas she may not think she has it in her. And it's not about fitness or lead follow-up or this or that. It's about a principle. Yeah. And that's huge.
Well, and the funny part is, like, and we all know this, and she did self-discover, and she was like, I was like, and you have to send pictures, and she's like, yeah. And I was like, and why? Because we're you can't lie with the photo. You can lie and say you're in compliance with your diet. You can lie and say you did cardio. You can lie and say you did your weightlifting. You can lie on that, but the photo isn't going to lie. Are you seeing the progress or are you not? And tracking allows you to identify, and it shines light on what we're doing fantastic, and it shines light on what we're doing, what we're weak at. And most people, when they see what they're weak in, it's the same thing with fitness. All of a sudden, when you're not losing weight and you're gaining weight, you're like, oh shit, I want to stop tracking. They stop getting on the scale because they didn't like what they see. But as long as you can be the type of person that gets excited to, hey, shit, what I'm doing is not working. I now either got to eat less, change up my macros. I got to do more, have more output. Something's got to change though, so that we can start getting the right trajectory. And we all get excited for that when it comes to health and fitness, but when it comes to our business, nobody wants to do it. And it's like, that's what we're obsessive over, because we're tracking and we can see, hey, by the way, when you add a calendar invite, it's going to increase your show up rate by 12%. By the way, and we just have the best practices to improve each KPI that leads to strong lead conversion. And it's like, hey, if you're tracking, you get to find out if it's working. And what's funny is people are like, well, what do you do with your top 8? By the way, if my top agents are top agents and what they're doing is working, I say the fuck out of their way. I'm not going to make somebody adhere to my way, if they're doing something that works, because there's a lot of different ways for us to do this. But for the people that aren't, hey, your way's not working, try mine. And that is something that resonates well with people. Well, why does she not have? Because she sold 27 houses last year and you sold one. That's why she gets to not do any of this shit. And we make it very clear. And I think one of the problems with a lot of these places is we don't set clear expectations. And it's like, hey, here, everything is earned, nothing is given. If you see somebody getting a disproportionate amount of opportunity, if you see somebody who has a whole lot more freedom to do whatever it is that they want without compliance of what you're having to do, it's because they've earned it, what their way is working, yours isn't. Look at that gap as your room for growth. Get excited about that opportunity so that you can go earn that freedom and you can go earn that type of relaxation. But it's, yeah, I don't know.
Let me point out what you, because there's so many great teaching pieces in here, Colton. It's just what you do. It's in your unconscious, because we are standard and then we want to run out and I'm going to do the standard. But here's what I want y'all to hear, because there's a lot of times where people say, well, you know, how do I bring people in? And yet they're going to hear that this person doesn't have to do this or doesn't have to do that. And then really, do you have an integrity with standard? Well, here's where the integrity is. What's the end result that Colton, what is his obligation every day? His obligation is to facilitate the best condition for people to get the outcome in their business to support their personal lives. And so if someone is doing something, okay, that is delivering the result that is mutually profitable, it's profitable for both parties, then that's fine. You don't have to go crazy over, well, let me give you some rules so you know that I'm the boss. So note, what I want you to note here, because this comes up a lot, Colton, is people think, well, but I can't have them do it and them not do it. Hey, listen, all the better. You know, the best thing that can happen, get them to do it and adhere to it. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a couple rise up. And then the top person's going, hey, Colton, what are they doing over there? Oh, you know, they're just, you know, doing A, B, C, and X, Y, Z. No, I don't believe, well, let me show you that. Okay, I guess I should change. So, and change happens that way too, correct?
Nothing works better than that. Literally nothing. When we all of a sudden the brand new girl comes in and has, because our best agents, guess how many buyer brokerage agreements they've done? 0. Our brand new agents who have been in onboarding for that girl, 59 days in escrow. She now has 7 buyer brokerage agreements signed. She's now has 3 total escrows within her first 70 days. This girl, but John, she shows up to her accountability meetings like this if she's 2 conversations shy of pacing. Like, and she's just like, can I get off the call? I gotta go. And like, she obsesses over that process and that box checking that people talk shit on. And it's like, hey, brand new girl, brand new to real estate, doesn't know shit about anything with our business, but yet she's running circles around you fools. And it's because this is the world that she's been introduced to. And I do believe this. The people who are starting now are going to be in great shape. I started in 2008 in Las Vegas with Frank Napoli. And I am so fucking grateful for that shit market that we were in, because everybody was out wanting out. I was a dumb 16-year-old kid digging ditches in 120-degree heat. Fucking real estate during the recession was a cush job for me. I was loving that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the people who are coming into this new reality, and this is just what is, they always are going to have that upper leg, because this is just what you have to do. And they don't grieve over what was. They don't bitch and complain about it, because it's just, this is all they know.
What a great point. You take a look at, let me be a little bit sarcastic for everyone. So wait a minute. He has 84 million pending and closed year to date, okay, in this market, okay, and he is on an upward trajectory, and he's in the lead follow-up process and the CRM and how people take steps. But he could pay someone to do that. See,
Yep.
that's his, y'all, like 60% of your time needs to be spent in your core competency.
Yeah.
And I learned this, you know, I knew that I was doing it, Colton, and then I think you've probably heard, because we've had conversations and I've shared on Zooms. Dean Graziosi, when I was with him, you know, getting coached, continue to, a year and a half ago, and Dan was sitting in the room with me. He says, yeah, I did my walk today. I went up to the top of Camelback and I edited my Facebook posts. I mean, this is a guy that's on stage with Tony Robbins. I mean, come on, right? So it's just so I want people to hear that. Let me ask you this, because we know, hey, listen, I can strengths find you, I can Colby you, I can disc you, I can do all those things. And I'm not saying they're good, bad, or otherwise. And you can go through every process, but no one can predict who's going to be productive. But let me ask you this. For you though, and you've been wrong before, you'll be wrong again, I'm sure, right? But for you, what are you looking for? Because here's what has happened. You've had decent retention, good retention,
Yeah.
a great trajectory. Tell everyone what you're looking for when you're hiring an agent to your organization.
To be honest, and you're not gonna actually, you might be cool with this. A lot of people won't. I would scare the shit out of them during the interview. Myself, my director of sales, we both will tell them like, "Hey, you're probably not like we're not for everybody, and in fact, we're not for most." And we tell them exactly why this is hard. We tell them that your first year is gonna suck. Like we literally just try to scare the shit out of them. We tell them what we expect. We tell them that we expect them to treat it like a job. We tell them that during every interview, everybody shakes their head and says, "Yeah, I'm absolutely going to do that."
Yes.
And we tell them by the third week, every single person that shook their head was like, "Well, yeah, duh, obviously." All of a sudden is either being put on a PIP or they're being removed from onboarding. And it's like we let them know, "Hey, I'm not going to we tell them I'm not going to run personality assessments. I'm not going to do all this shit that everybody does, and I'm sure you've probably already done it. There's a team here that does it." And some girl I had yesterday was like, "Yeah, I took this long test." I was like, "Hey, I don't give a shit because that test doesn't tell me whether you're going to show up on the days that you don't want to. That test doesn't tell me that you're going to follow processes that to deliver direct results. That test doesn't tell me anything about your grit, your grind, or your ability to push through on the days that you don't want to. So just know we are going to be looking for that. And during our onboarding process, we have milestones that are non-negotiable that have to be hit, and they are not hard to hit. They really aren't. We don't make it crazy, but they got to upload 50 leads into their CRM the very first week, and they got to put 50 people in, and they got to attempt contact with all 50 people. And I do it in week one because if they failed to do it on week one, and we tell them this before they ever sign on the paperwork, we're going to remove you, because God knows if I can't get you to call people that know, like, and trust and love you, you're never going to fucking call the people who don't. And we make it very clear that what is going to be expected. And dudes, that like we get more and more, not bullyish, but like scary about this isn't easy. We're in a market to where it requires more effort than what 90% of people are willing to put forth. So just know we're going to be looking for those weaknesses because we want to remove them. Because what feels like I'm taking a hammer to that person is a shield for you and the rest of the company. My job is to make sure that we're not giving any resources, any ammunition, because I used to be that idiot that is trying to spend all my time and attention and energy getting the people who won't do shit to do shit, while my people that do shit feel like shit because I'm not spending any attention on them. And it's like, why are the squeaky wheels getting all of our time and attention and resources when the people who deserve it, who are doing what they're supposed to do, feel like the redheaded stepchild? That's an ass backward organization. We realize that really quickly, and we tell that story very clear up front out of the gate. And then people aren't surprised when they're asked to leave.
So good. Clear expectations. Because the only reason any relationship ends, business or personal, is unmet expectations. The challenge is that they're set, but then the minute that you don't hold them, that becomes the new expectation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really simple.
And unmet, and last thing, and again, this is so much as I'm saying this to you, we learn so much. And another thing I loved you for is you said one day, you're like, "Hey, I'm just simply a vessel that's taking information that's been given to me and I'm transferring it to you." And a lot of us, I'm somebody, I'm like, I kind of feel like a fraud because everything I say was taught to me by somebody else, but that's how we all are. And it's like, oh, damn it, squirrel. I had something I was going to compliment you for.
That's all right. It's all good. I think the most important thing, you're teaching people though, because I think that's really, really good. That took me a long time, longer than, I'm 57, longer than it did for you. It was like, but wait a minute, they got it from someone else. And,
Yeah.
and it is this pass through. And I think what's neat is, and I always want to recognize too, Eric Hatch has been a great coach and friend of yours for years and has contributed to you too, correct?
Oh, a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Everything that I've said today came from John, Eric, Dan Beer, Kyle Whistletina. Like
sure.
I've got that group, and
Yeah,
they've
and one of the things that Colton does do too is you can hear, I want you to hear the humility in it also though. but there's a responsibility to pass it on. And Eric does what I know who that human being is. I haven't spent a lot of time with Eric, but I've never heard a bad thing about him. And heard he's a highly competent coach. He's run a good business, but he's got a really, really good heart. But just like Eric has done, Eric has been a vessel, and that's what Colton is. And if you follow Colton closely, you'll see that he is sharing consistently what he's doing. There's that willingness to do it. So I think that's just a really, really important thing for people to capture. We're all following the same playbook. I mean, if we're following the right one, we've all got the information, we're following the same playbook, but it's the one thing I'm sure you're hearing too, folks, is execution. If you were, let's wrap with this. If you were, and you've had the opportunity, but that was a presentation and it was a value piece. But you're talking to a group of team leaders right now, maybe someone that's struggling right now. What would you say to them?
Give yourself grace. I'm a firm believer in this. Like, give yourself grace. We all fuck up, but you did something on this recently. You're like, hey, let yourself feel the coldness of the river, but stand up and get out of it. And it's like, you got to start taking the steps. And for me, it's, if you want people to follow you, we need to embody, and we need to, like what you say, model the behaviors and the characteristics, because we feel like shit on days. And what we need to model and what we need to show our teams is that we show up on those days, and that's the difference. So give yourself grace. We all suck at sometimes. We all feel like nothing's working. We all feel like it's falling apart. But as long as we're doing the right things and we're taking the right actions, all we need is time. And for most people, I just think we aren't doing the right things, or we try to pretend we do. You did another post on this recently. It's like people say they embody commitment and discipline. It's like, then you just look at them, you're like, bullshit. It's not true. So if you want it from your team, you have to model it yourself. And our time block, I'm on that time block today, and I wrote an apology to my team. Like, John Cheplak has me on his podcast. I'll be on the Zoom immediately after. And this is the one time that I haven't been on that time block, and it was so I could be here with you. But it's like, for our time blocking, we do a Zoom, everything's up. We just got to model what it is we expect.
Yeah, so good. Couple other pieces real quickly. You have and you're doing what is responsible, like Eric has done with you, and you're doing with your agents, and now you've got proof of concept. You've always contributed across social, but now formalize it. Tell everyone about the recent course that you put out there.
Yeah, so we did an onboarding course. Our onboarding has been something that we've just obsessed over. Like I said, we track everything. So I called it Icon Builders. We are just focusing on how we can bring the right people into organizations, hold them accountable to tangible and actionable items and milestones, and just kind of the process that we followed. So that's something that we just launched, which was a scary thing to do.
It is. Well, you're going to keep going it. Where can they find you and find information about that for those listening? I mean, because there's two parts. There's the tremendous value, and thank you. I appreciate it for your time today.
Yeah, of course, bro.
The greater value they can get from you on that. Where can they find that and find you?
DM me on Instagram, Colton Whitney, Colton_Whitney. Happy to help anybody out. I'm a big fan, because I wouldn't be where I'm at without all the endless people that have contributed to where I'm at. Like I've always said, I'm a race car, and if you pop the hood, there's John Cheplak, Eric Hatch, Dan Beer, Kyle. Like, I'm a whole bunch of parts that have made this little piece of shit race car be able to get on the track and actually be a competitor. And
I love it.
I'm happy to give it back. So
awesome, brother. I appreciate you. We'll do it again. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.